So we can
Sabah
start.
al-khair. Welcome everybody. Welcome to the module B of our series of webinars. It's a pleasure for me to be opening this webinar. Today we do not have Stefano, but we have lots of colleagues from ITC Turin and Geneva, and from also the region that will be supporting you. I'm very, very pleased to have you here. We will have a little bit later, after my introductory words, a presentation by George Fadel. And George Fadel, he is who is here. Maybe you can open your camera just for a little minute, George, so that people see you.
Good morning. صباح الخير للجميع. أنا بدي أتكلم بالعربي معكم اليوم.
صباح الخير, George. And he has his beautiful background of the trees. He's a trainer expert in the programs, and he has been working on skills anticipations with the ILO for a long time. And he's managing analysis and programs of studies for the labor market. He holds an engineer degree and master degree on IT management, and he's a teacher at the Beirut University. And he was also a teacher at the Lebanese University for 10 years on all the topics that we're looking into today. So we will be in very good hands with him. Of course, we also have here with us Asma, that is Al Madani, who's helping us with all the work and techniques. We have with us Anastasia Pavlova and also Feishali and Duncan Chando, who will be co-moderating the session with us. Just a few words on what happened before on module A. We had a very lively discussion on how, it was very important to have dialogue, peer learning in the field of skill development. We learned, and this all is recorded also in the famous Padlet exercise that we have done together, and also in the slides, that through social dialogue, there's many opportunities, and some of the countries have mentioned what they would like to do. Some of them is like, for example, UAE has offered to provide opportunities to everybody to access learning skills and move to labor markets and the organized economy and many regulatory frameworks. There was also some offer from Saudi Arabia experience on vocational skills. Despite it being new, they were also very interesting to offer that to other GCC countries. We heard also that monitoring needs and continuous cooperation in the provision and exchange of job opportunities and identifying competencies is very important in the future of work. This is also very important in the framework of South-South cooperation. As you know, it's this peer learning within the region, but also within regions, because in this module, we'll have the opportunity of having to hear a little bit from, for example, Cooperation China, ASEAN, and also what happened in the CIS with support of Russia. So I think that is an interesting cross-regional cooperation. We also heard that monitoring needs and are also linked to the Human Capacity Development Program. And we are also looking into possibilities of providing opportunities that can improve learning skills, but also through social dialogue. So there was a lot of debate about creating networks or unions or associations that can support the whole debate on skills development, skills matching, and anticipation. There are joint teams working on TVET among GCC countries. So this was also mentioned in the different Padlets, and I had the pleasure of being a couple of groups. And that technical vocation training networks can play a key role in GCC. We also heard that many countries mentioned that educational platforms among GCC countries can be shared, and that the Gulf skills competition that happens every 2 years should be sharing innovations among countries. There was also a request or a suggestion that there should be a creation of a platform or website that explains professional standards in order to exchange experience and develop skills, and that we have open learning opportunities among GCC countries on peer learning and knowledge. And here I would actually maybe kindly request everybody to again look at our platform, but of course it's still in English. We would have to do an adaptation of this platform for Arabic and other languages, but we do have a space where you can interact apart for the eCampus, and maybe I will share it quickly with you. Let me just see if I can share just before the presentation of our dear friend George. I think you can see it now. This is a platform that I don't know. It says please move this window away, so I'm not sure you're seeing my my screen. I think so, right? And basically here you have the South meeting point, several topics. So any kind of news that is happening in the ILO, highlights. For example, we have a highlight already on the GCC Skills Academy, and I will be posting your videos here. The launch of the South Day, the Global South Expo. But under thematic subspaces, you have a space devoted to skills, skills, job creation, and green jobs. So when you enter the space here, it's still in English only, but our plan is to have an Arabic. In fact, I had already promised this some time ago, so I think this is urgent now. We'll have an Arabic tab so that you can also post your good practices. But for those of you who can work in English or even in Arabic, you can enter a discussion forum here and write your good practices, share with us what is happening. Here we had several events, including a V-Fair, and people were proactive. So you can see there's all languages. And there's actually a little tool on top that you can actually do a Google Translate immediately. So even if you're not accessible to the language, the software, it translates for you. Of course, not perfect. You know how we have these limitations. And we have several presentations on linkages of BRICS, labor market, and skills. This is, for example, a presentation I had done some time ago. The feasibility of big data and anticipating matching skills needs. This is from 2020, and reskilling and upskilling in the framework of the COVID crisis. So now, of course, we're a little bit on post-pandemic terms, but I think these are very much up to date. And with those words, I would like to close the opening and give the floor to George Fadel, who will give you a very technical presentation. But at the same time, we would like to, he has a presentation of around 40 minutes, but we will interrupt a few 3-4 slides and interact and join with some questions and hear your queries, but also we'd like to think about the peer learning aspects. So what sometimes very technical aspect can be done jointly by the GCC. So over to you, George, and thanks so much for the opportunity of giving this opening. Later I will pick up the moderation again for our group work. So over to you for the time being, George, and over to you.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you very much. I will start sharing my screen.
Good morning, everybody. Can you see the picture? Please, can you tell him to get closer to the mic, please?
Okay. Good
morning, everybody. Thank you, Anita.
My presentation should be in Arabic. أنا بتكلم بالعربي بس خليني.
So I will be speaking in Arabic. Yes, but can you tell him to get closer to the mic, please?
Yeah, better. أفضل من هيك.
I need better. Yes. The same. So we today we would like to start with this module of the skills anticipation and matching So we need first to tackle the initial concepts and technical concepts for the anticipation of skills and matching. As first of all, to understand the global engines actually for the change and their impact on skills anticipation and matching. And things also the core concepts to identify the current needs of skills and skills anticipation. So what are skills? What is the knowledge? What is competency? If I want to start with the competency, and simply said, it is the capability to apply the knowledge through training. So as for the skill, it is the capability of performing a hand and intellectual activity and through learning and practice. So skills is a more or a wider concept that may include the experience and the knowledge and the skill. Hence, the skills anticipation. We need to know what we have in hand, in the present, and we need to anticipate what we have or what we need for the future. If we look at this graph, actually, if we take, for example, a learning course for 3 or 4 years, which is the TVET, for example, if I have the number of registered students in a certain year, after 4 years, I may have less graduates, and also the demand actually may increase on these skills. So that's why the good anticipation based on scientific methods and reliable ones for the future is very necessary in order to reach the aspired goals. After identifying and defining the skills anticipation, we need to move to the international factors affecting or impacting the skills anticipation. We have several factors. We are going to explain them one by one, and what we care about, as my colleague Anita said in this session, to focus on the skills related to climate change. In other words, green skills, and what can we upskill the current skills and matching them for the developments of this era. If I to start with the first factors, first of all, the migration, then the climate change, digitalization, globalization, demographic change, and then at last COVID-19. These are the factors that we are going to explain gradually, as Anita mentioned, and then we are going to discuss things that you have at the JCC countries related to green skills and other related projects, and the possibility to implement them in the tripartite cooperation between the South-South countries, or South-South triangular cooperation, or between South and North, or between two countries of the South, in order to exchange expertise and knowledge on things related to sustainable environment, to other factors, in order to reach to mutual and exchange capabilities and the projects. if we want to tackle the climate change, we have to tackle the rapid developments. They are outracing us, like the artificial intelligence, the 3D things, metaverse and robotics, and things related to the biomedicine, the nanotechnology, and the bio. Actually, we have reached many technological specializations, which created thousands of the job opportunities we need to um, really, he needs to come closer to the mic. It's becoming so unclear because he's speaking fast and he's not next to the mic. Sorry. Sorry, can you stop him, please? Or you need to use a headset.
1 minute, please. Let me try another one. سامعني الآن؟
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
We had a small problem with the sound, but it seems okay now.
I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit better, but it's not that better. Okay, you can continue, please. If you don't have any other solution. Please continue. Okay.
سوري على هيدا المشكله اللي عم بتصير معي بلبنان. في عندنا العامل الثاني هو تطور.
The second factor is the technological development and innovation. The technological development and its role, is it likely to destroy the automation that is happening rapidly? Some they say it could destroy it, and others say no, and the automation will not be canceling all the jobs, but there are many jobs oblige us to develop our skills and rechange them in order to be able to cope with the technological development. To have development within the work in order to cope with the developments of this era. The technological development actually is helping us in developing the work and creating more job opportunities, and also the workers, actually those who have specific skills, I can move it to a newly emerging occupation, for example, and I can utilize these skills in these jobs. So the technological development is helping to polish such skills and to enable us to perform in a better way in order to complete and to perform specific jobs. The main factor when talking the South Triangular Cooperation, which is the climate change and its impacts. Climate change has many adverse impacts on the globe. And on the other hand, it has many positive impacts through plans developed by countries and different scenarios, and according there is the scenario within the framework of Agenda 2030 and the economic one. If we want to take the scenario of energy sustainability, which means the renewable energy or the solar energy, in other words, or power generated from solar panels or wind and things related to the nature, also recycling of waste, and there are many things actually that may help us in having renewable and alternative energy, and this created millions of jobs will be creating millions of jobs by 2030. For example, 7 million jobs whereby um, could be cancelled but 20 million in new jobs actually will emerge and need training. As for the circular economy, actually, we have other figures related to this. As for the idea that the climate change is creating us millions of job opportunities, and also the millions of the existing job opportunities, we can rehabilitate the workers in order to upgrade their skills to reach the required jobs, and to be able to perform in the field of a green economy or industry or anything related to green skills, in other words. And this is in Egypt 20 years before, and there was the COP 27 actually conference with the participation of all the countries of the world and the ILO and other entities, in order to try to develop new ideas and to mitigate the impacts of the climate change on the globe. The other factor or sixth factor, which is the demographic
the third
changes.
factor or element is demographic change. As you might know, we have developed and developing countries. Developing countries suffer from aging population. And there is a decrease in the new birth rates. So in developing countries, the workforce is aging, whereas in developed countries, the workforce is aging, whereas in developing countries, we have a young population and a young workforce. With a high birth rate. And this, of course, would create a challenge for young people to acquire the necessary skills. In developing countries, young people is a human capital reservoir and an asset that could attract investments and projects and ventures. We could also work on promoting their skills towards economic diversity and better skills in the labor market. So demographic changes have a positive impact in developing countries, as they would allow them to export millions of workers abroad, and this prompts governments to establish clear national policies to upskill and reskill the new generation, and to design modern educational curriculum so as to allow them to enter the labor market equipped with the necessary skills to that keep pace or allow them to keep pace with all the new requirements. Then we have trade and globalization. As you might know, the world has become a small village. And this is thanks to trade and globalization. And this helps creating new job opportunities. We can see many corporates and enterprises in a country that can recruit or employ people in another country or establish their factories or branches in other countries, and upgrading the skills in those other countries would increase productivity and enable them to employ skilled workers. So international trade and openness among countries can have an impact on skills demands. And this in turn has an impact, a positive impact on globalization and trade. When a country has a good pool of skilled workers, available products in that country will be highly demanded from other countries, and qualitative and quantitative trade and exchange among countries is something very positive for trade and globalization. The ILO has devised the methodology that is called the study of needs and skills for economic and social diversity among countries, so as to determine approaches and ways to study and examine these skills and develop them in order to create job opportunities among countries based on the principles of globalization and trade. The fourth factor in terms of anticipation of skills needs is the increase of the average schooling in developing countries. So countries are mainly focusing on educational attainment and schooling. As is shown in this chart, we can see that the mean or average years of schooling for young people aged between 15 and 24 has risen from 4 to 7 years schooling. And this is a very good mean, taking into consideration the periods of 1990 to 2018, according to UNESCO's estimates. And this is a very positive advancement in terms of school attainment. In developed countries, this mean years of schooling has also increased from 9 to 12 years within the same period. So educational attainment or schooling can create more skills and create more competitiveness on jobs. This has its advantages and disadvantages. On the advantage side, there would be a lot of skills supplied or offered that we can upgrade and use in the labor market. But against this reality, there would be a congestion of skilled people, because academic attainment or a school attainment without upskilling or reskilling would lead to a lack of appropriate skills. And this is intrinsically linked to growth, to economic growth, because in a country with high skilled people, productivity would be high, and skilled people would not need a lot of training and efforts from the enterprises to upskill them. Or else we will have a skills gap
Hi, George. Maybe I can jump in 1 second here just to ask if we should make a little pause for questions or?
Yeah, sure.
Yes? Okay. Maybe you can have a little pause just for people to comment or ask questions, and then we can continue a little bit more later.
اوكي بليز اذا حدا عنده اي سؤال انا بدي ضل كمل احكي بالعربي اذا عنده
So
حدا
I
اي
will go on with Arabic. I'll continue speaking Arabic. Should any one of you have any question, any comment, any request for clarification, or any input about what I've already presented so far, you are most welcome.
ما حدا حابب يسأل نترك الأسئلة
No questions. Okay, we can keep the questions until the end of the presentation.
Yes, and then
Okay.
we can also what we can do is also integrate the questions in the group work. So thanks so much. Yeah, we can continue then.
اوكي فاذا بعد ما حكيت يعني انا عم حاول احكي بشكل سريع لحتى نربح وقت بعد.
I'm trying to talk fast so that we can have enough time for the debate, for the Padlet discussion and the work group later on. One of the important factors is workforce mobility. We can have regular or irregular migration from developing to developed countries in quest of better livelihoods and living conditions. So streamlining this migration process can be seen as something positive for workforce mobility. Economic activities have become more globalized, and Internet is a virtual means to access skills and qualifications. And our meeting today is but an example of this. I know many experts who are working online and performing activities for another country without having to travel. So they are performing and exercising their tasks online, especially when it comes to internet and IT-linked activities and occupations. So this created thousands of jobs among countries. We also have mobility among countries when countries are facilitating or easing this migratory process or mobility process. This is increasing world competition or competitiveness over the resources, because I can get a job offer from several countries, and I can work with all of them. So labor force mobility has made it necessary for many persons to upskill and reskill according to the needs of other countries in order for them so either through mobility or through internet and online activities, and this is very positive for many people. As you may know, COVID-19 has emerged over the past 2 years and has affected the world of work. COVID-19 had a very adverse effect on the world of work over the past 2 years, and there were a loss of FTE. Jobs, and this has induced a loss of many jobs, given that many factories and enterprises were not resilient enough in the face of COVID-19 and the restrictions. So COVID-19 had a negative aspect, but also a positive aspect, as consequently, many countries had to look for projects and programs aimed at upskilling and reskilling their labor force very quickly, and the United Nations also played a pivotal role in this respect in order to contain the economic implications of COVID-19. They wanted to make sure that factories and enterprises continue working despite COVID-19. So there were initiatives to bring people back to work, to build their resilience, and to come up with recovery, long-term recovery initiatives. And this helped us be resilient to COVID-19 through upskilling and reskilling programs and initiatives that allowed us to continue working virtually and online in the universities, factories, enterprises, the industries. 80% of the tasks and activities were conducted remotely or on a rotational basis, and seldom staff would attend to the workplace. Of course, COVID-19 had an adverse implication, but it also had a positive effect, whereby it has allowed us to come up with new jobs, alternatives, and realities. It has created a new reality, and this is what is positive about it. To sum up these 5 elements or factors, I can mention here a resulting mismatch between skills demand and skills supply. We needed a skills need anticipation. To this end, stakeholders in every country have to play a common role and have a joint action plan in order to anticipate skills needed. And they have to come up with suggestions and recommendations for the best use of skills, and in order to retain skills and workers, to improve work conditions, to devise business strategies based on capabilities and human capital investment. They also had to study the required national and sectoral policies and regulations, in addition to integrated national and sectoral policies for educational, academic, or vocational curriculum, how also to deal with unemployed people through training courses organized by state agencies and entities, through specialized agencies also, and programs conducted by public employment services through labor market active labor market policies. So all of this would allow an anticipation of future skills that are needed based on scientific evidence and conditions that are in line with the requirements, so as to avoid having an accident of low skills and we need to develop programs that would create high skills among workers. So these were the main highlights concerning skills anticipation based on national, international context, and based on the globalization. I will stop for a minute here to check if you would have any questions, and then I would
Joy,
need no more than 5 or 10 minutes for my presentation.
yes, I would suggest we wrap up in 5 minutes because we will need 15 minutes for the group work, and then we have to report back. So I think if you can wrap up in 5 minutes, that would be excellent. And in the meantime, just thank you really for your very interesting presentation, which I'm listening to the translation, of course.
Okay, I will go faster. هلا انا بدي احكي شو الاشياء عدم تطابق المهارات والمشكله.
I would like to touch on skills mismatch and the associated challenges. We have two forms of mismatches. We can have a shortage of skills or a lack of skills in the labor market. And against this, we have excessive skills, which is a surplus of skills in the labor market, but those skills are not highly qualified. We also have horizontal and vertical mismatch. Sometimes the skills that I have might not match my occupation, but the level of skills or qualifications that I have just allow me to do what is requested from me in my occupation. And this is what we call horizontal mismatch. We also have horizontal vertical, whereby I can be overskilled compared to the occupation that I am exercising, or I can be underskilled compared to my job. And this is what we call a negative skills gap, which means that I do not have enough skills to perform the tasks required within my company or my factory. So this is what we call, once again, a negative gap. So we have positive and negative gaps. So positive gaps are when I am overskilled, I have high skills, and I am performing a job that does not require all these skills. So this is what we call vertical and horizontal mismatches again. These are the reasons for outdated skills, which means that in order to preserve my skills, I have to use them consistently. Otherwise, they will become outdated and lost. So in conclusion, I'd like to say that with respect to skills anticipation, we would need first to identify the relevance of training courses and programs and curriculum, so that later on I can assess my needs depending on a cycle of anticipation policies. I will move quickly on this because they complement what I already said. But let me add that the best way to know the future is to be aware of our past and the present, to know what is available in terms of skills. Unless I know what was available in the past and what is available now, I cannot anticipate future skills needed. Of course, I didn't go through all my slides. We had prepared some Padlets, slides, about skills anticipation based on the SSTC and the reality of GCC countries, and the skills and qualifications available within the GCC, such as climate change, renewable energy, sustainable energy. So all of this information are available in both Arabic and English and can be provided, of course, to the participants. Anita, I may stop now.
Thanks, George.
وننتقل لتاني مرحلة.
And
Thank you
now
so
we
much.
will move to the
Shukran.
second part of the webinar.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shukran. So what would be very excellent is that I'm sure you can, in the groups, because one of the questions is referring to peer learning. So maybe you can navigate between the two groups. You can show them some of those questions that came from the Padlets. I also had brought them up, and here we heard how important skills anticipation is and the important role also post-COVID for recovery, for also finding solutions to unemployment and skills mismatch. So I think it was a very rich presentation. So thank you very much for that. And now I pass the floor very quickly to Duncan, who will read out once more the questions which are here on the chat for the group work. And then we will immediately move to groups. And I'll ask my colleagues to in Turin to split the Geneva colleagues in different groups so that we're not in the same. Well, we're two. We're at Nancy and Feisha, so we inevitably be repeating one of us, but that's okay. So we have a kind of a split, and Georgia can also help us, I think, in the group work, because I think your presentation had lots of rich food for thought. So over to you, Duncan, just to explain the group work.
Okay, thank you so much. So it was a rich discussion, like Nita mentioned. So quickly, without wasting time, I think there are two questions that we need to address, and I'll just go through them. But I think we can also post them in the chat. So number one, there's the question of what are the drivers of change affecting anticipation and matching in the region, because we're looking at the GCC region. So that is number one. And then number two, we also look at some opportunities for knowledge sharing and peer learning, because in the context of SSTC. So over to you, Asma. I think maybe I can post the questions in the chat, and then we have 15 minutes for these two questions to go through. And then after that, we'll have a plenary where we'll have at least 2 minutes per group presenting.
Yeah, so don't forget to choose a rapporteur, male or female, trying to think about the gender balance. And over to you again, Asma, for splitting us in groups.
So the rooms are ready, and we'll open them all now, okay?
So I think we can start. first group that want to go?
I think
The
in
floor
our
is
group
open.
was Shaima Al-Ansari. I don't know if this is the group 1 or 2.
Yes, Anita.
Sure.
Okay, so hi everyone. I think for my group, we came up with an answer to both questions regarding the driver that will, sorry, I forgot the question itself, but I have the answer.
I had to put here what you have written in, and I had the translation in Arabic for you. So
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a correct translation because it's Google Translate, but go back to you.
Okay, so for the drivers of change affecting anticipation and matching in the region, we came up with the following. We think that economic drivers, changes to the political drivers, climate drivers, technological drivers, and innovation drivers as well. All of these do affect positively and sometimes negatively the anticipation and the matching between the demand and supply for skills in the region. For example, the economic driver, you have the drop in the petrol price, oil price that happened over the past few months or over the past few years had an impact on the mismatch between the skills that are demanded and the skills that are needed in the region. These are regarding the first question that talked about the drivers. As for the second one, which is about the opportunities for knowledge sharing and peer learning in GCC, we think that since each country has its own virtual platform that includes all the information regarding the skills that it needs, why not to have a common or joint platform between all GCC countries or one portal so that we can share information and share services regarding the strength and the skills that we have, the shortages that we have, how can we exchange people with the needed skills between the countries, how can they be funded, how can we share resources and so on. Probably we can go ahead and form a board or a committee that could set up the policies, the strategies that could govern the work for how the share should be shared between the countries. And yeah, I think this is mainly what we have discussed and wrote down.
Okay, thank you so much. So that summarizes. I don't know if there's any other person from the group who will want to add something that might have been left out before we go to the next group.
Duncan, maybe it would be nicer if somebody from the group actually, but just to really say that this was a very, very interesting discussion in which they have reaffirmed what they have in terms of existing platforms, and that they really learn from the module A. So I think there is a very kind of high learning competency group, and that they all want this one common platform in terms of sharing. This is what Shaima just said. But I think that's something that maybe the ILO can also support somehow. And if this is a conclusion, that is a very useful to have a common platform to access the GCC countries, skills development, skills anticipation, and matching needs. And we also had some comments from our colleague Faisha on how that was useful. But all the group members were very proactive, so including Fatima and Muklahed, Hamad, and others. So anyway, thanks to the group. Over.
Okay, thank you, Anita. I don't know, I'll for the next group, we can also open and for them to share, the group that I was part of. Anyone who want to share? Mariam? Mariam?
Has problem with mics, with microphones, so maybe Duncan, we can provide the feedback which we said about.
Nancy, we cannot hear you. Maybe you can come closer to the microphone.
That should be normal, no?
Now is a bit better.
Far.
Now better?
Not really.
And try again.
Yes, now
Yes.
perfect. So unfortunately, many the participants of our group, they notified us that they have problem with microphones, and they were writing to the chat box their suggestions. So thank you for the previous group for such a big and comprehensive explanation. Thank you, Shema. But we had we focused on first question mostly about the drivers of change, and for us, we also discussed that very important climate issues and the changing of climate, including the global warming and how it affects the region and affects the sustainability of the projects which we establish. And also the one thing that I haven't heard that you mentioned, but was idea in our group, that the existence of globalization helped us a lot to start where others left off in terms of education and knowledge. This is from Mariam from Kuwait input. And I absolutely agree with this, that really the globalization can be also, this is our answer for both questions, both opportunities for knowledge sharing and drivers, that globalization answer on these two questions at the same time. And we should use all the benefits of it coming from this, regarding that we can exchange, regarding the technological development, which allows us exchange information from absolutely different regions of the world. So basically that's, in a nutshell, that's what we would like to add from our side, from our group. Thank you. Anita, over to you.
Thank you. Maybe there's somebody from the group that would like to invite Duncan to like give some more details about these ideas, because they're really great. Thanks, Nancy, as well. Because we still have 5
so we can have
minutes.
anyone from the group sharing. Okay. So I think I can also maybe join in and share. I think there was a context in terms of innovation and technology. That is some area that GCC countries can definitely see in a way to work together. So because I think from some of the good practices or some of the contribution from the Padlet, there was a question of some countries having challenges when it comes to either slow government process in doing some of the things related to skills. So I think digitalization and innovation can really help in solving this. So I think without much ado, that's all from my end. Unless there's someone from the group that we are locking out, kindly feel free to join in. Thank you.
Duncan, if there's no request for speech, maybe we can ask George to say a few concluding words, and then I can finalize with some additional conclusions. But I think I see some iPhone. I see somebody wanting to speak. Over.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Greetings, peace of God be upon you. I would like to add on what has been said. All GCC countries are working towards developing their citizens' skills through digitalization, automation, and the quick internet speed in the GCC countries. We can see all of this, and this is a quantum leap. In the first part of your presentation, you mentioned a brain drain and skills migration. Can we discuss what should be made in the different regions to reduce the pace of migration and to have an in-country migration instead of external migration, because in our countries, we are preparing our citizens and providing them with the necessary skills, and later on they are migrating. Thank you. Yes, sure. Let me answer you. To prevent brain drain and highly skilled graduates to other countries, governments have to carry out the necessary initiatives and projects in order to create job opportunities in their own countries. For example, if they live in industrial areas, we have to come up with initiatives that would attract them towards such industries, and the same applies for tourist areas or agricultural areas. Of course, while respecting decent work, when my country offers me decent work with a good livelihood and equal pay and so on, when all the incentives offered by other countries are also provided to us by our own governments and by our state, then we won't be prompted to migrate, but we would rather stay in our country. I've already mentioned in my presentation the need for adequate policies and regulations that would improve working conditions. So when working conditions are there and workers are protected, then they will not want to migrate. If we upgrade the skills of low-skilled people and workers, then they won't consider migrating anymore because they will find a job in their own country. Stakeholders should recommend these initiatives and steps based on national or sectoral policies in order to reduce brain drain and migration of skilled people. And we know that several countries are offering motivations and incentives in this respect.
Thank you, George. Maybe over to Duncan for him to give a little bit of a view of what's going to happen in the next sessions, and then I will say some closing words.
Okay, thank you, Anita. So I think for the next session, again, it will be next week, same time. And the questions, I mean, we'll have a presentation, and also after that, we'll also have a chance to for people to share some good practices on the topic. So we'll, I think more details will follow, and maybe we'll reach out to some of you to be part of the people who will be sharing some of their good practices from their countries. So I think that's all from my end.
Thank you, Duncan. So with this, I'm just going to say a few closing remarks. I think that this was a great presentation by George Fadel. We really learned a lot about skills anticipation. It was quite a technical presentation, and I think the discussions was very good. We managed during his presentation to look into some aspects of the anticipation, like what would be a realistic trajectory to having new and existing, skills anticipation. What are the capabilities that both firms and workers need to have? What kind of adaptation is necessary? The type of skills that we need, also post-pandemic, pre-pandemic. So this was another question that came also from the group, is that we have to focus more on climate change. Do we need to focus more on just transitions? Do we need to focus more on technology and innovation? This came from the group work as well. What worker profiles we need by skills types, another question, and what are the supply gaps as well? Because I think that's the demand and supply gaps is something that will have a very important thing. Based on these questions, we also look into some possible responses that were mentioned here in this group about, how to do job matching, incentive systems, policy recommendations, policy coherence on the matter of skills, and also integrate the question of social dialogue, which is so important for the ILO. So I think these were some critical elements that we had. I don't know, I see George has opened his camera, so maybe he wants to say some additional words. Over to you, George, and then we can close.
No, I just want to thank you all for being with us today. Thank you, Anita, Duncan. Thank you, Anastasia. Thank for all my colleagues. Hopefully, in the next session will be like today.
I think you're muted.
No.
No, I think we can hear him. It's okay.
Yeah. So thank you for all. I hope next week will be very useful like today. Thank you, Anita, for your time with us, Anastasia, Vivian, all my colleagues. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, George. And then over to Asma in case there's any technological announcement that needs to be done, or is that okay?
Okay, done.
Everything is fine. شكرا جميعا.
Thank you, Asma. شكرا أسماء.
الله يخليك. شكرا
بالعربي.
Thank you, Asma.
على حضوركم اليوم. شكرا أنيتا، جورج، دانكن.
Thank you for your participation today. I thank Anita, Anastasia, George, Duncan, Vivian, and all of you.
مترجمينا ميرنا.
I also wish to thank our interpreters, Mirna and Iyad.
جميعا في الندوة القادمة يوم
And
الخميس 1
see you all next week on Thursday, 1st of December at 9:30 Turin time. May you have a blessed day.
Thank you so much. Shukran.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.